Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the second installment of Zendikar Rising set preview. And I have a very special guest, one of the tournament organizers for the MTG Davao Hey Joe Gaming MTGA Tournament of Power. We have Idol Benson. Benson, are you there?
I am here. Thank
Oh,
you,
hello,
Mr.
hello.
Nax,
Yes,
for
yes.
giving me the time.
Yes, thank you also for the time to help me review Blue in Zendikar Rising. Blue is very spicy because one of the planeswalkers in the set is here, and I hope you did a little bit of research. And are you excited for Zendikar Rising in Standard so that we can continue with our Tournament of Power?
Oh yes, I think the Zendikar is a very good refresh of the standard format, which has it's been very stale for 3 months now after M21 came out. So very excited to go ahead. There's a lot of spicy stuff here, a lot of not spicy stuff also, but let's see it.
But
Hope I can give Mr. Papi Arnel the due that he deserves.
yes, because we miss Papi Arnel. I hope Papi Arnel is very busy taking care of baby boy. Anyway, anyway,
Junior,
so
Arnel Junior.
yeah, Arnel Jr. Anyway, our format would be we would review the mythics first, then the rares, then we will choose one either uncommon or common that we find really interesting, or we might see heavy play in a format or what. So let's. Are you ready, Benson?
Let's go.
So we will start with Jace. Oh, Jace Mirror Mage, the very first Planeswalker. Out of the gates, the first mythic rare for blue is a Planeswalker. Jace Mirror Mage is a legendary Planeswalker with one colorless and two blue. It has Kicker, and it says when Jace Mirror Mage enters the battlefield, if Jace was kicked, create a token that's a copy of Jace Mirror Mage, except that it's not legendary and its starting loyalty is 1. Its +1 ability is Scry 2, and it has a 0 loyalty ability that says draw a card and reveal it. Move a number of loyalty counters equal to the card's converted mana cost from Jace Mirror Mage, and it has a starting loyalty of 4. Benson, what do you think of Jace?
So this is a very hard planeswalker to put into a deck actually. So if you look at the zero ability, it's Dark Confidant for the planeswalker, right?
Yeah.
So you reveal your top card, and it will deal damage, or basically it will lose the loyalty counters depending on the converted mana cost. So normally this one is always recommended to be played with Kicker because you always want the Scry one, and depending on the situation, you would normally want to let the copy scry and let the number 4 take the damage, depending if you're looking for a specific answer. So you normally see this in mid-range to, I would even say, aggro builds, because we will see the rogues later, some of the rogues that will be in the standard format. But that is how I see Jace right now in the standard format. And if you want to put it in a specific deck, particularly I think the rogue decks as a sideboard card will be very good. And in other decks, potentially the red-blue spells will also be a potential choice for Mr. Jace.
But yeah, Jace is really good even in control decks because they will set up great draws for them. They could scry 2 to draw the spell that has a bigger mana cost and putting a land underneath it, then activating the second copy. Early on, it's just a scry engine, which is really good.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a kicker in the late game, you tend to have an extra draw free of charge with Scry. Or if you're looking for specific answers, having two Jace Mirror Mage that scries 4 cards deep is very good in the late game. if you're looking for specific answers.
Right.
In EDH,
The biggest problem.
yeah.
Sorry, ikaw. You go ahead. Go ahead. EDH.
In EDH, this would be very, very tasty with Nicole Bolas. Nicole Bolas, the planeswalker that has all the loyalty abilities of planeswalkers, because because you can scry to a plus ability again. I think it's a so-so addition in a planeswalker deck in EDH. Yeah, that's what I think.
My biggest problem with Jace is he has no defense. No, the biggest defense is actually creating the token. So it's funny enough because normally for planeswalkers the defense is usually the plus or minus ability, but for Jace the defense is actually the kicker, because you create two of them, so they have to attack one or the other. So that's my thought, because what will happen is when you set this up in either in any constructed format, limited format, or any constructed format, the biggest issue is how you defend it. So in white blue, you normally set it up with the Birth of Melitus, right? 0/4 protect the base, or in the other side you create a wall of creatures so that Jace will not be attacked, or you just let the token die. Yeah.
Because if you just played it and you just plus the 2, you need to have a total of like 7 damage, 5 on the original copy and 2 on the the clone to eliminate it. So the kicker is the defense. It's very unique because this is one of the other planeswalkers that has a very unique ability not yet seen in previous planeswalkers. So, Benson, what do you think? Is Jace Mirror Mage a yay, a nay, or a meh?
I think it's right now for me a yay, because it's a very big draw engine, especially when you put it in decks that have the capability to protect it. Right? It will just kill you with card advantage. So I'm putting it in the yay for now.
Yes, indeed. I also agree. Jace Mirror Mage is a big yay for me. It just so happens that in blue standard, there is Teferi, 4 to cast Teferi, which would be another addition to blue decks, whether control or aggro or mid-range. But as time goes by, when standard decks would just rise, I do hope that Jace Mirror Mage would see play, because he is my pet planeswalker. Anyway, let us proceed with our next card, and this is the second modal mythic that we will see in Zendikar Rising, and this is Seagate Restoration. Seagate Restoration is a blue sorcery with 4 colorless and 3 blue mana, and it says draw cards equal to the number of cards in your hand plus 1. You have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. And since it is modal, it is a land. It becomes Seagate Reborn. It is a land, and it says, as Seagate Reborn enters the battlefield, you may pay 3 life. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tap, and it produces blue mana. So, Seagate Restoration. Benson, what do you think?
So I think this, and across all the modal lands, right, there are some spicy and common modal lands actually that I will be walking through later from blue, especially from blue. For this mythic and all the similar mythics, I think when you go across the color pie, it's quite expensive, and it's what you call them now. It's not a shock land. It's what a lightning bolt land, a bolt land now when it comes into play. I see this as a one-off normally in decks that can use blue as one of the colors. And then if you draw it late, at least you can use it. If you draw it early to mid, at least you can still pay 3 life or have it come into play tap. So I see this as a one-off. I don't see this as being highly impactful. Even the actual effect is not very good, and it can easily be countered at the late game. So this is a one-off as a modal card. And Nax, just to talk about modal cards, right? I will be very interested to see how this impacts the number of lands that we play in decks, because this can actually be counted as a land and or as a spell. So this can be part of your land count and can be part of the spell count. Normally, it should be part of the land count.
So do you think that with the emergence of modal cards, do you think that decks would have lower mana bases or still stay the same with 24 lands or 26 lands? Do you think that with the rise of modal cards, that would change the dynamic of mana bases?
I think it would significantly change the dynamic of the mana bases, primarily because you normally count these modal cards as lands. For me, if I were to count them, I count them as lands, specific for this one, right? So some of the uncommons I count as spells. But what will happen is that you can actually change your land count to significantly go less. So you will not see those 29 land cards anymore. You may go to 27, 26 with a couple of modal cards like this.
So you could like jam 4 copies of Seagate Reclamation, and even though you draw them, it still counts as a land. So modal cards would really change the face of deck building considerations. And with that, Benson, Seagate Reclamation, is it a yay, a nay, or a meh?
This one is a nay, right off the bat. There are so much better modal cards in Mythic that I've seen in white, in the other colors, that will be much better than the effect that you get from Seagate Restoration. At most, it's a one-off. So I don't even see it seeing play unless it's in the very eternal format where you can cheat this into play, like, you know, with an omniscience, show and tell omniscience, and you can cheat this into play. Yeah.
There's a better spell, the one that you draw your entire library and you just leave one.
Right.
Yeah.
So
for me, EDH, in EDH, it is auto include in Nekusar decks, because even though the mana is very heavy, EDH is a very explosive format where you just cast haymakers, and this one acts as a modal card. So if you don't need it, you have a land drop. If you need it, it greatly impacts the game because you have a built-in no maximum hand size ability clipped on you when you cast Seagate Reclamation. So with that out of the way, that modal card out of the way, let's go to I think one of the more spicier mythics in Zendikar Rising, and it is Seagate Stormcallers. Seagate Stormcaller is a creature human wizard for 1 colorless and 1 blue, and it has kicker of 4 colorless and 1 blue, and it says for a 2/1. And it says, when Seagate Stormcaller enters the battlefield, copy the next instant or sorcery spell with converted mana cost 2 or less you cast this turn. When you cast it, if Seagate Stormcaller was kicked, copy the spell twice instead. You may choose new targets for the copy. So Benson, what do you think of Seagate Stormcaller?
Oh yeah, this is definitely another Snapcaster family wizard, right? So we saw a couple of them before with the 2/1 red pirate in Ixalan, I think, or I think Ixalan. There was a 2/1 pirate. So this is of the same ilk. The Seagate Stormcaller is going to be played significantly in standard, accompanied whether it be with the blue-black shell, the blue-black flash shell, where you can flash in, put this in. Sorry, not even flash. Put this in and then cast the Heartless Act into two Heartless Acts, 2 eliminates, right? Yeah. However, where I see this very spicy is in the blue-red spells. This will fit in nicely. This will replace the Arcanist, right? The Arcanist is rotating out of standard. This will be a nice quick replacement to the Arcanist to play the next instant or sorcery. Now, the kicker part, I do not know how much this will be used. because it's so expensive, right? It will bring you up to 7 mana to cast, plus the actual instant or sorcery that you are casting. So the kicker will probably not see much play in standard or even in the constructed formats, but just the copy itself would be more than enough to see this in play.
True that. For me, all I see is Time Walk. When I see this card, all I see is Time Walk. It's like if you put this in play and cast a Time Walk, you have to so I see it in Eternal formats to be like a 1 of or a 2 of, just to get extra value for your singleton power 9s and the likes of spells. Like if you play this in modern, like on turn 3, you can have like 2 Inquisitions, or you can have like 2 lightning bolts in a red blue shell, or 2 shocks in standard. So having Seagate Stormcaller in your hand and having the right instant or sorcery spells adds value. So your original two or less mana spell is like it duplicates itself when you have a Seagate Stormcaller. So I really do feel that having it into Mythic is good because of limited issues. Because I think in limited, since Seagate Stormcaller has no flash, you cannot use it in combat tricks, pump spells, and whatnots. But if in draw spells, like especially in eternal formats, all I see in Seagate Stormcaller right now is Time Walk, Ancestral Recall, and Ancestral Recall. It's like drawing 6 cards with 3 mana is like very, very good.
The only thing it has going for it is the no flash. If it had, it would have been very, very.
It would have been broken immediately.
Broken. Yeah.
Yes.
Banned right away.
Yes, because if it had no, because copy the next.
Yeah.
But it doesn't it even with flash, it does not work, I think, because you cast your instant, you put it flash. No. But
no, you flash it first. You flash it first.
Yeah, you
This
flash
is the
it
first.
first. Yeah. Okay, now I picture it. So, but in EDH also, another note, in EDH, Seagate Stormcaller is really is good, but with the limitation of you can only cast it with mana cost 2 or less. It's kind of like, but having like 2 triggers of High Tide. I think High Tide is legal in EDH. I don't know, but having 2 triggers of High Tide in a mono blue shell would be bajonkers with Seagate Stormcaller. So, with that out of the way, Benson, Seagate Stormcaller, is this a yay, a nay, or a meh?
This is definitely a double yay if you have that rank. Even higher for me, higher than Jace, just because of the uniqueness of the ability. Jace has like replacements in the current meta, in the current card pool, but this one is a bit special because there's only one version of this that's coming out.
Yes. Having a wizard in a party themed set is looking really good, especially with what you've said earlier about the red blue spells. I'm very excited with that. Able to trigger 2 spells for the cost of 1 extra card. So, and having a 2/1 body. So, with that out of the way, let's proceed to our first rare in blue. And this one is so Krabby Patty that it's called Charix, the Raging Isle. Charix, the Raging Charing, the Raging Isle is a legendary creature Leviathan crab with 2 colorless and 2 blue mana, a 0/17 crab. And it says, spells your opponents cast that target Charing, the Raging Isle, cost 2 more to cast. And it has another ability, pay 3, Charing gets plus X minus X until end of turn, where X is the number of islands you control. Rare bomb in limited for sure. What do you think?
Okay.
Oh wow,
For
parang
this one, no, I'm a bit mixed with this card because it's a 4 to cast. If it was 1 mana less, that would be probably better. Even if they dropped it to 0-12 or 0-10, I would be fine with it. Putting this, I seen this primarily as a sideboard card, primarily for mono red, right? There's no way mono red will get into this, even with Torbran in play, even with Embercleave in play. There's-
0-17.
the most I've seen, yeah, the most I've seen Anax is like 7-3, right? So even with an Embercleave, it will not even kill the Charix with an Embercleave in play. So that's normally it. If mono red would still be good, which I think when you hit red, there's a lot of new red toys to play with. Charix can be a good wall, a very big wall for it to play. And in the older formats for fun, or even in, I think when you discuss this in EDH, those effects like Doran, defense, like the high defense, will be a good way for this. Oh, just imagine this also in standard in auras where you have that +1/+1 that changes the damage
Oh yeah,
from
yeah, yeah.
power to toughness. So you let this go through, you get hit by that. Yeah, you're gonna win a lot of games if that ever goes through.
Yeah, with the potential of like hitting you for 5 damage the next turn it comes into play. Having a 5-12 attacker is still, which gives opponent a hard time removing because of the first line. So yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
also that.
Charing is a sideboard card at most in constructed. Unless you can like make a red blue fling deck or fling whatever, where you switch his power and you fling it. But I think you need like 7 islands in play with 2 activations so that
Yeah,
you will get a 14-3 charing crab. Bah. But I feel
yeah,
in limited this is an automatic bomb. It's very hard to remove.
yes.
It's very big. Combat would be like stale. You just put rich in it. Flying creatures can't even have a hard time going around this Leviathan. So,
It's
yeah.
it's a bit watered down as a standard because of the removal of
Yeah.
the shacklands. So there's no more islands, not much
Oh,
islands anymore,
yeah.
and the modals are not islands.
So you're forced to go either one color with the disappearance of Shocklands in standard. So
That,
with this out of the way, let's just get this crab out of the way so we can put it in the
yeah.
pot and cook it and eat it.
Mm-hmm.
Is Charix the Raging Isle a yay, a nay, or a meh for you?
I think it's just a May. It's a situational sideboard card. It will not really swing the game unless in limited, right? Even in limited, it's a bit odd also to swing the game really. So it's just a May for me because of the situational and the sideboard card nature of this card.
Yes, yes. That's also a meh for me. In EDH, you can't even see him in play. But in limited, if you have this and you're leaning into blue in your limited pool, then having Charix, one of your limited bombs, would be a great addition to your deck. So with that crab out of the way, going sideways, let's proceed with our next rare, and this one is both.
Nice.
Oh, it's nice. Oh. It has mixed
Spicy.
reviews, but from Benson, it's a very nice. So this is Confounding Conundrum. Confounding Conundrum is an blue enchantment for 1 colorless 1 blue, and it says when Confounding Conundrum enters the battlefield, draw a card. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, if that player had another land enter the battlefield under their control this turn, they return a land they control to its owner's hand. Benson, what do you think?
Okay, even I said, yeah, I just feel that this is a very good thing because it for blue players, and actually for especially the Uro mirrors, the Sultai mirrors, the Timor mirrors, or any Uro mirror for that instance, this is basically your sideboard of choice, or sometimes even the main deck of choice, depending on the meta game. I see this primarily in the sideboard as a 1 or 2 off. So this is similar to the Jansa, the mirror fights where you have one specific card for the mirror and the first one to put it in play normally, and if the other one doesn't have it, wins the game. It lets the ramp decks fight fair.
Yeah. I feel bad for Uro decks because of this card, because even though even the cultivates get blasted because of this
Yes.
card. So there is a lot of ramp spells in Zendikar Rising, and with having Confounding Conundrum in play would make ramp decks very, very sad. There's a certain green player who would be very, very sad. Also in modern, this with fetch lands, I think this is a anti-fetch lands thing.
Oh yes.
Cannot use your fetch
Yeah.
lands instantly. So it's kind of dirty. It's a very dirty sideboard card. Against, like, if you have like what do you think? Field of Ruin. I think is Field of Ruin available
In Teros.
in Teros,
Yeah.
right? So if you have this in
Illegal, yeah.
play, an opponent puts a land normally. At the end of turn, you Field of Ruin him. He can't search for another land. He can't put that land from the Field of Ruin. So it's a land destruction. Oh dear. Oh no. Why did I think of that? Oh, God, everybody's thinking it.
Yeah.
In EDH, this would be an yeah.
Very good, yeah, no, it's very good. Like I'm just looking at all the implications. I mean, you continue first with EDH. There are other like niche implications for this also in constructed. But let's go with EDH first.
But in EDH, this would be an automatic bullseye. You're putting a bullseye on your board. You put this early on because EDH tends to lean on ramp and putting land early. And if you have a Confounding Conundrum, you would just be automatically enemy number 1. You'll be like the pariah of everybody, and everybody will hate you if you play this early on.
Yeah. Just look at this. This can also enable other things right now. I haven't seen the rest of the set yet, but if you have a landfall team deck with a let's say a Naiad, that Dryad, right, that allows you to play multiple lands every turn. This can enable a funny landfall, a very extreme landfall turn with creatures that have the landfall ability. Because it allows you to play multiple lands. Yeah. Although the lands return to your hand, but it still comes into play at the end of the day, and then it goes back to your hand. Yeah.
It's like landfall decks would be like, okay, we already put our threat on board. You have this sideboard, and okay, let's just grow the steep links for 1 mana. And all my low curve landfall creatures, okay, I'll just cast another one. So, yeah. But it only affects the opponent. So if you're
it only affects the opponent. Sorry, I didn't see that. Yeah, okay.
So if your opponent is a Naya landfall deck, then sometimes you will be like, okay, it's okay. Let's put in another land and like that. But a little drawback is that the opponent controls which land they would return to their hand. So
that's right.
So either way, it's still a time walk sort of if you have like land destruction or bounce permanent abilities. You just deny him of mana. And another thing that popped into my mind is that I saw a red card that goes very well with Confounding Conundrum. But later on, I might mention it in the set review. So, with that out of the way, Benson, Confounding Conundrum, is this a yay, a nay, or a meh?
This is definitely a yay. It just lets the Uro decks play fair, right? So for anyone who's been very angry at Uro for about a year, is it? I think it's about a year now, right?
Yes,
Or close
about
to
a
a year.
year.
This is the card. This is definitely the card that will answer your problems with Uro.
So much hate for Uro. That's why they did not ban him. That's what I feel. Why Wizards did not even have the idea of banning him because of that card, Confounded Conundrum. So,
Yeah,
without
this
ah,
is
yeah,
really better in the blue white than the mirror though. So blue white, especially blue white control, which has problems with that Uro. This
yeah.
will be a very big sideboard card for them.
Oh yeah. Man, they just stop ramp on their man. Oh, ugh, ugh. I feel disgusted. Anyway,
Okay.
let's wash away the disgust of the anti-hero card with another party potential Coral Helm Chronicler. So it's so tongue twister. Coral Helm Chronicler is a creature merfolk wizard for 2/2 for 2 colorless mana and 1 blue. And it says whenever you cast a kick spell, draw a card, then discard a card. When Coral Helm Chronicler enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a card with a kicker ability from among them and put it into your hand. Then put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Benson, what do you think?
This I'm not even gonna go through all the text, right? Outside of being a tongue twister, it's I don't think it's good. The kicker spell doesn't even let you draw a card; it lets you loot.
Yeah.
And then you may whiff. You may whiff with the top 5 cards as we've seen with Moxos and Collected Company. This rare will go into the junk rare section in both
Yeah.
constructed and limited, right? Even in limited, I don't see this very playable, and I don't see much kicker cards anyway in
Oh,
the format to make this even workable.
yeah. I think it's a more build me around card. So in limited, if you first pick this, you're going to dedicate your entire draft to looking for kicker spells. And in limited, kicker spells is very good. Since
Yeah.
they have utility and in limited, yeah, it's a meh. I'll give this the yes, the horn of disdain for Lego.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the
This is
horn of
the one you
disdain.
don't want to see when you open your pack.
Yeah. Oh, the feel bads, the feel bads. So, I don't want to talk much about this tongue twister, Coral Helm Chronicler. So, Benson, is this a yay, a nay, or eh?
So if I gave the Seagate Stormcaller a double yay, right, this will get a triple nay. Nay, nay,
Triple,
nay.
triple nay. Oh my god. Let's give him another horn of disdain.
Yes.
Oh my god, let's okay. So that very sad card. I mean, I feel better if I get the crab over Coral Helm Chronicler. So if somebody who's watching this who can tongue twister Coral Helm Chronicler, uh, post it and tag me.
Oh, yeah.
So let's wash away the disdain with the new rare card. And for me, this is one of the more spicy rares that I'm very excited. I'm also very excited of the rares. This rare. This is Glasspool Mimic. Glasspool Mimic is a creature shapeshifter rogue for 2 colorless and 1 blue. It has 0/0 and it is a modal card. And it says you may have Glasspool Mimic enter the battlefield as a copy of a creature you control, except it's a shapeshifter rogue in addition to its other types. And its modal is Glasspool Shore. And it just says Glasspool Shore enters the battlefield. Tap, add mana. So, before I get goo goo gaga over this card, Benson, what do you think?
So this one will fit nicely into the rogue decks. that will be coming out. So I think you will complete this when you hit the black, right? Because I think the rogue decks tend to be blue black. So that's the better deck to play than the party. Instead of completing your party, might as well build a deck with rogues. Okay, in the Zendikar format. But let's get to the parties later. When we come across I think we will come across one of the rares that is party related. So for Glasspool Mimic, this is one of the cards that we were talking about the modals, right? This is one of the cards I think that will be played as counted as a land and situationally be played as a creature in rogue decks, right? Because the problem with Glasspool Mimic is that it can only copy your creature.
Yep.
Or a creature you control, right? It cannot copy the other side, the opponent's creature. So it's very situational, and only if you want a specific rogue or a specific creature to copy, right? And it's only a creature, it's not a permanent. So if I were to create a rogue deck, I would put like 2 of these and count them as lands.
Yes.
Then play them as a Mimic.
I have to agree, and I will give her the Kaguya-sama approval. Glasspool Mimic is very, very, very spicy because it is a modal card. If it was not a modal card, you would like think very hard of putting it in your rogue deck, which is one, and because there's a certain M21 rare card that is centered on rogues and it mills cards, and having Glasspool Mimic on your turn 3 or even as a land, the utility that it brings to the rogue deck is very high. What do you think? It scales the rogue deck into another step. If you don't have a creature to copy, then you can just use it and but if you have the engine, the one drop flash rogue that is the engine of the rogue deck, you could just copy it. Or if you're just like you just want it to die or whatever, you can just cast it as himself as a 0/0, then it triggers back down. Then you have blink abilities and whatever. Having the subset rogue is very good in the black blue. I am very excited. I'm very excited for this card.
Yeah, and in worst case, it can also power your party, right? So if ever there's a party deck that will become standard constructed, like a standard constructed viable, you can have this as one of the party members.
So
as well.
So I'll just ask right now because we've already talked about party in the white. Party is a mechanic which triggers whenever you have one of a cleric, warrior, a rogue, and a wizard. So my question is, if you have a warrior in play, then it counts as a rogue. Okay, fine. If you have a warrior in play, you copy it with Glasspool Mimic. So it is a shapeshifter rogue warrior, correct? Then the warrior creature dies. Does it count as 2 members of the party or only 1?
Based on the text of a party, as I'm trying to find a text here with the party, my initial answer to you without having found the text yet, right, is only 1, because what the party says is it's 1 of each. One of each. So so because you have creatures, if you see green, right, you have a creature that's counted as each creature type. So it actually can be counted as all. So for example, your changelings in the eternal formats, the changelings. Was it the changeling? The changelings. They will only count as 1. So you have to choose whether they are the warrior, the rogue, the wizard, or the cleric. You cannot have. So I mean, similar to when you play your RPG, right? Your Final Fantasy games, etc. You cannot have one person be every 4, all 4. You only have 1. You can choose 1, and they become that slot. So I'll just use that as the example for party.
Just like my previous example of white, you cannot call a party when your party has 4 Gandalfs in it. That's not a party. That's a bunch of wizards. So In EDH, this is a very, very good clone card because clone effects in EDH is very good. And since it's a mobile card, it's also a land. It's so good. It's so good. So, with that out of the way, after visiting the rivers of the Glasspool shore, Benson, what do you think of Glasspool?
In terms of where I stand, right, outside of ETH, in terms of the constructed and limited format, I'm just gonna put this as a May, like a just average, right? It has the utility of being a land, but it's not. When I say yay, right, I'm talking about 3, 4 of or game breaking cards, right? So that's my definition of yay, right? This one will not break the game. It's just a nice synergistic card because of especially of the creature type. So I'm just gonna put it on the May scale.
The mass scale, yeah. It's technically, if you just look at the card itself, it's a automatic meh. But when you see the synergy that it brings, especially in current standard, in upcoming standard, with the rogues and the party mechanic, having this card in blue, which is very good in copying things, is a good addition to the set, and it brings variety in deck build. So,
Yes.
with that out of the way, we will proceed with our next card. And I can't recall if we've checked on the inscription cycle. I don't think if there is one in white, but this one is.
In every color, I think there's one of them in every color. Or I don't think it's called the inscription, but it's those kicker cards that are sorcery
Yeah,
speed.
it's a cycle, right? It's a cycle. So,
Yeah, it's
uh,
like
this one. So let's just talk about this one before I check if there is one in white, because I can't recall we talked about the white cycle. So this is Inscription of Insight. Inscription of Insight is a sorcery with 3 colorless and 1 blue, and it has kicker. It has kicker of 2 colorless and 2 blue, and it says choose one. If this spell was kicked, choose any number instead. Return up to 2 target creatures to their owner's hands. Try to, then draw 2 cards. And target player creates an XX blue illusion creature token where X is the number of cards in their hand. So, Benson, what do you think of Inscription of Insight?
I actually check white. It's a different modal card that they have. It's that the enchantment, the Felidar retreat, the one you can choose two
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So my first thought of this Inscription of Insight is this is one of uh the spells to cast after ramping so hard, right? At 8 mana, you can choose 3 of them, 3 very good ones, in fact. Or if you need it early in the game, you can also choose to bounce 2 creatures, draw 2 cards, or create a blocker, right?
Yes.
This I see will replace the commence the end game. That's also rotating out as one of the sideboard cards as well. Or it can be a main board card also depending on it, but it's like a 1-2 off and then a 1-2 off in the sideboard as well in case you want to switch it from main board to sideboard, right? I see this primarily in a ramp heavy deck or a control deck like blue white that can just abuse the modes and the
Yeah.
mana as well to the late game. One thing to note, right, that this one goes in order of the bullet points. So if you choose all 3 at the same time, you draw the 2 cards first, then create the blue illusion.
Yeah.
Because
So
some
so
people
you
they have,
bounce, you scry, draw 2, then create the X. Okay, okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Because
similar
if
with the cryptic command when you
okay.
choose the cryptic command.
So you go
Yeah, so it's
from
also in
top.
that order. Yeah.
Okay. So technically my initial uh deliberation of this card was like meh, because it's sorcery. I'm more inclined to instants. But since you've discussed on ramp, uh having a total of 8, it's an 8 mana spell that can shift the board in your favor because you could bounce 2 creatures in the opponent's board while you having a it's either the worst case scenario is a 2/2 blue illusion or a 8/8 blue illusion, because if you have 7 cards in hand, you cast this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the ceiling, the floor for me is ridiculously low. If you have like one of in a in a control deck, in a blue control deck, this would be nice. In a ramp deck, I would rather cast a Ugin when I have 8 mana, but having this one in my hand would definitely help me, especially in the early, because it's very flexible, because you can cast it on 4, so that you can just scry 2 and draw. Just that the sorcery is kind of putting me off a little.
Yeah, I think you get the flexibility, and then the it's just a payoff. But with the flexibility, you can use it early to bounce, like let's say to bounce creatures, or to do it. Yeah, but you go through EGH first, and when I give my deliberation of this, I will tell you which is probably a better choice in the current constructed format if you want to choose modal modal card. Yeah.
So having this one in your deck is like, if you're focused on ramp, or like when the game is stalled in creature combat, having Inscription of Insight as a 1 of, a 2 of, or maybe if you build around it, it's really game breaking. The inscription cycles, their modes are board state breaking, because you get to scry 2 and draw 2 cards. You're looking for your answer. You get to bounce creature. You get to make a big creature for your own. So even for a 4 mana 6/6 illusion, it would be great. For 4 mana scry 2, draw 2 cards, it's also very good. 4 mana to bounce 2 creatures is very, very good as well. So as we continue deliberating this card, it's looking really, really nice.
Yeah.
So with that out of the way, this is one of the inscription cycles in Zendikar, right? What do you think of Inscription of Insight? Is this a yay, a nay, or a meh?
This is a meh for me. It has its applications depending on the meta game. But if you were to choose a modal card to use in a ramp deck, right, you just go with Sublime Epiphany. It gives you the most flexibility.
6 mana.
It's 6 mana. It doesn't give you the flexibility, but it's in between the 4 and the 8 of this Inscription of Insight, and it's instant speed, right? Yeah, and it technically is equally game breaking.
Yes, and with that out of the way, having the Inscription of Insight being drilled by our insight, we proceed with our next rare, and this one is Peter's pet mechanic, as well as one of my quick deck texts that I posted this week. This is Maddening Cacophony. So Maddening Cacophony is a sorcery for 1 colorless and 1 blue, and it has kicker for 3 colorless and 1 blue, and it says each opponent mills 8 cards. If this spell was kicked, instead, each opponent mills half their library rounded up. Benson, it's a story spotlight card. What do you think about it?
Well, I think it enables at least. So if you look at all the mill cards in Zendikar Rising, they don't actually mill players, right? They mill opponents. So the gameplay is such that they want you to win with mill now. For some reason, they want you to win by milling your opponent's library down. It doesn't help that they still have Uro in the format because it can always escape back. So they probably have to do something about that. In either case, right? This is always good for mill players. It's a niche card. It's a niche win condition. I'm definitely going to create a mill deck with Teferi's tutelage and all this. Too bad Ashiok is gone already. I mean, in fact, my best performing brawl deck in MTG Arena is an Ashiok Ashiok mill deck, which has always won, or sometimes when the opponent sees it, they just auto concede.
Disgusting.
So this one will enable a lot of that, and the fact that there is the round up, right? Just note the round up. So if you have 1 card, it mills the 1 card.
Yeah.
Because it's rounded up. So it can really take out the library from meaning that if your opponent has one card, it can really take out that card. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I think it will definitely go well with the Secret Keeper, with the Overwhelmed Apprentice.
Yeah.
Too bad the enchantment is gone, right? The
Yeah, the
enchantment is gone.
drowned
The
secrets.
Count Secrets. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was a very good enabler actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, for me, I have a quick deck of a blue-black mill control deck that has no rares actually. With having Maddening Cacophony into it would be okay as a one of or two of because the deck relies on Teferi's tutelage. So, if you cast this early, it's really good value. Two cards for 8. Two cards to mill 8 cards is very good value because the best one is a 2 mana mill 7, I think, or mill 5, or no, the best one
In
is mill 10.
standard,
No.
glimpse, right?
In
Glimpse,
all
I think.
eternal format, in all eternal, Glimpse the Anticable is the best 2 mana mill spell. But in standard, there's no, for 2 mana mill 8, it's really really good. But if you draw it late in the game, you could just mill half of the opponent's deck. So, uh, the ability with Kicker gives this card again flexibility, which you could dictate when you would like to cast it, or would you like to keep it. Would you like to cast it early, or would you like to cast it later on in the game? So in control matchups, this would be like a very good card, early or late. Mill decks, this is a very good. But in limited, if you open with this in limited, would you like to stick with mill automatically?
I normally if I see this in limited when I open a pack, right? Normal in limited, actually the one that will draw you to mill is a permanent card that can constantly mill your opponent, like a tutelage, a Jace's erasure,
Yeah.
so things like that. This one is an enabler, a support card, because it's a one-off thing. It's mills 8 cards and then it's done. The other thing actually that I would say with this is that when you redo the mill deck, right, when everything is out, just imagine the combination of this with the Seagate Stormcaller,
Ah,
our
oh,
mythic rare,
oh yeah. Wow.
because when you kick this, right, the kicker actually is not part of the converted mana cost also. So I mean, when you go way late in the game, you kick a spell. The Seagate Oracle, the Seagate Stormcaller actually still sees 2, if I'm not
What?
mistaken.
Oh my god, I
Yeah,
did not see that. Oh my god, I did not see that. I just saw that today. Oh my god. Mind blown. Oh, wow.
yeah.
So for
And apparently, when it's copied, the kick spell is also copied, but it's only 2. But I mean, it's half the library,
yeah,
right? So it's half and half. But
but
it
even not kick 16 cards for mana in
Mm,
constructed. Oh, Uro would be very happy. Your opponent has an
yeah,
Uro. But
yeah.
either nevertheless, like one card you have the C8. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh my. Oh my. I may remake my budget na UB. Maybe make a
So
legit
it's not budget
black UB.
anymore. It's
It's not
mythic and
budget.
rare.
Yeah, it has mythic and rare, so it's not budget anymore. So, uh, after blowing my mind with the Seagate Stormcall, Maddening Cacophony, Benson, what do you think? Is a yay and
I think right now in the current constructed format, right, for just for constructed, I would put it in the nay, just primarily because of Uro. We don't have ways to. I mean, there are still ways to exile cards, but not much anymore because of Ashok being gone.
yeah.
For limited, it's definitely a yay. Actually, a dedicated mill deck in limited is one of the best decks that I want to build. It's
Uh,
actually the most fun, one of the most fun decks to build in limited. So for limited, it's a yay for me. Constructed, there are even in eternal formats there are better options. So it's a nay for me
so big
in
shout out
constructed.
to Peter Paul Ang for making mill decks in limited possible. So that card is for you. And a quick side note, it says each opponent. So in EDH, milling the whole board with 8 cards while having Mind Crank. triggers a lot. That's a quick EDH tip on Maddening Cacophony. But with that out of the way, we're gonna proceed with our next rare, and this is one hell of a party member, and this is Master of Winds. Master of
Mm.
Winds features Sphinx Wizard for 2 colorless and 2 blue. It has 1/4 flying, and it says when Master of Winds enters the battlefield, draw 2 cards and then discard a card. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery or wizard spell, you may have Master of Winds base power and toughness become 4/1 or 1/4 until end of. Ooh la 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 la. Spicy party member. The spicy party member. What do you think?
So my initial thought of this was pretty good, but it's actually not very game breaking, right? You come into play, it technically nets you one extra card because of the draw two, discard one. Um, However, the second paragraph of this, which moves it from 4/1 or 1/4, is where I'm a bit torn apart, because you need actually an actual spell to change the mana, to change the power toughness, and another spell to change it back in case someone shoots it or tries to kill it, right, with damage. So that's my thought on this. So this one is a good in limited. It's probably one of the second tier cards that you can take out of a pack.
Yeah.
It definitely enables your party, but in constructed, even in the eternal formats, I don't see a deck where this can fit in outside of the blue red spells.
Oh yeah. That's the only deck that I can think of using this one.
Yeah,
It skews combat
and
because of the
probably
switching.
a sideboard card for aggressive decks because it has a big butt. It's 1/4, so it survives most combat exchanges. And later on, when you're ready to attack, then it can become 4/1. Yeah.
Ah, very very nasty. But overall, for me, I have to agree. This is a very meh card for me because uh, can't you know, you need other cards just for his next ability to work. I think it's a meh for me.
Yeah. And no other impact, I think, to other eternal to the other formats.
Yeah. In EDH, no.
No,
Uh,
also I don't.
yeah.
It's too slow, right?
Yeah, it's very slow with 4 mana. You cast in 4. On the next turn, you need to have like an instant sorcery or wizard spell just for him to swing for 4 damage. If you have counter spells, you could protect it with uh instant spells. So in limited, this would be very very good. You build around this card automatically. You make a red blue wizard deck that has already instant and sorceries and having the wizard creature type in it so that you could switch it and deal damage, then hang back for defense. So it's really good in limited, but beyond that, I cannot see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same here. It's really May. Even in limited, right? Even when this comes into play in limited, I don't even see. If I were on the opposite side of the table, I'll be like, okay, then
It
my
would be
turn.
very
Yeah.
hard to deal with this if you're on the other side of the Master of Winds board. Like how can I kill this?
Yeah.
With combat, you need to have like 4 damage in your hand, which I hope we will see in the other colors. So,
Oh, you will see it in
yeah,
red. You
yeah,
will
in
see it in
red.
red. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Master of Winds, is this a yay, a nay, or a meh?
It's a nay for me in constructed. It's a meh for me in limited. Yeah. It's not something that I would first pick actually. It would be something that I would see as a signal in the maybe the second or third pack. I'm like, okay, blue, a bit open. Yeah. Then I go in. Yeah.
If you pick this highly and early in your draft, then it is very good. Uh, but if you're considering it like uh, you know, it's a build around deck because you're having, if you don't build around, like you don't have any other wizards, you have so little instant sorceries, it's a 4 to cast, draw to discard a card for 1/4. So like a Muldrifter watered down. It's kind of meh. It's super meh. It's
Yeah.
near the Horn of Disdain. It's near the Horn of
Yeah,
Disdain level. So,
yeah, not
ah,
as bad as the Chronicler. I mean,
yeah.
definitely, actually, no, it's so much better than the Chronicler.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's why it's like above the Horror Chronicler. So,
Yeah.
so anyway, with that out of the way, with the master, here's another party member that could be very well into party decks, and this is Nimble Trap Finder. Nimble Trap Finder is a creature human rogue for 1 colorless, 1 blue. It has 2/1, and it says Nimble Trap Finder can't be blocked if you had another cleric, rogue, warrior, or wizard enter the battlefield under your control this turn. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you have a full party, creatures you control gain whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player. Draw a card until end of turn.
Mm.
Benson, what do you think?
Um, so this is probably also going into the, this is another build around card. I think, if not right in constructed specifically, I find it very hard to build a full party. Okay, so so the party mechanic. I think when I see this, right, it's on average, I think in constructed you can actually build a at least two of the four. It's very hard to build the full party, and because your opponent will just kill whatever they are, right?
Yeah.
Will eventually kill at least some of them. In limited, the full party is definitely possible,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Based on that, yeah. And to do because since we're on the party mechanic, this specific card in terms of the whole party mechanic is not very good anyway, because it needs a full party first of all.
Yeah.
The upper ability, which it cannot be blocked, is good. It's incidental damage, I think, for me. Incidental damage. Now, I think it's a good segue for us to talk a bit about party, since you had a very good, interesting, I would say, quote unquote, interesting discussion on parties on the last stream, right? So let's talk about the gameplay instead of the concept, because the concept is there. Wizards will not change it. So I'm not gonna talk about the concept of a party, because if I were them, I may also add berserker. I want to add assassin. I want to
Yeah.
add ninja. Yeah, then I can create the full party, right? So
Oh
so,
no.
cleric, rogue, wizard. Yeah. Um, I think on average, even in limited, you will probably get 2 to 3, right? In
Yeah.
constructed, 2 will be the best average of the party. So when you see cards that talk about party, you imagine 2. It will trigger with at least 2 of the party, because there are cards, I think, that will count for each member of the party, right? There's an
Yeah.
effect, right? So when you look at those effects, you try to look on average, it will trigger twice, right? You either lose 2 life, you draw 2 cards, or you do whatever you need, or look at the top 2 cards based on the number of people in party. And parties are best done or executed in tribal decks, merfolks, elves,
Yeah.
humans. Right? That's how you build the party. You don't build it on the sub level, which is a wizard, wizard rogue, wizard
Yeah.
cleric.
So
It
you're
will be
just
impossible to build.
gonna
So, yeah,
incremental benefits if you have like if you include the party. You don't focus on the party mechanic. You focus on the
yeah,
tribal mechanic, then you just sprinkle
yeah.
in the party mechanic.
The party.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So, for example, this guy, the Nimble Trap Finder, it's human. So it's better built on a human shell.
I yeah, also for me, the party mechanic force really pushes you to play really pushes you to play 2 color decks, because as I've
Mm.
scoured the internets on the party mechanic, especially in Zendikar Rising, you will notice that there's a sprinkle. For example, in blue decks, you see a rogue wizard, so you already have two of the 4 party members, right? So you can you
Yeah,
can you can have a rogue
yeah,
and a wizard. Then if you add in like black, which has like they have sprinkles of warriors and clerics, So
Yeah.
it forces you to have two color decks. But it's very you are right that you don't focus on the party mechanic, because the party mechanic is like a, yes, we're complete, it's a bonus. But going for a tribal deck that has a synergy with the party mechanic, which is very, very, the effects are very strong, just like the white one, which gives all creatures +1/+0, regardless if
Yeah.
it is a party member or not.
Yeah.
So even token strategies with different
Yeah.
subtypes, very good. But standalone, this card is very meh. It's very
Yeah.
meh.
I mean, not even May. I think this may even go very close to the Chronicler
Yeah,
in terms of the junk rare.
because it's just 2 mana for 2/1, and you need another card just for his first ability to
Yeah, and you
work.
need 3 other cards for the other one to trigger.
Then the second line, the full party, you need 3 other cards. So
Yeah.
in limited, I am very, very confident that the party mechanic is very fun to build around in limited. But in standard, yes, it's very easy to build one, but finding a very competitive, effective party mechanic deck is
Yeah.
very far out for now.
Yeah. It should be tribal. Yeah, definitely tribal. So I mean, we have a couple of tribals already, right? The birds, the flyers, the flyers. So it's not either even that. It can be a tribal mechanic or a concept mechanic. So those the Azorius flyers in constructed is one of the shells that you can play around with to enable the party mechanic. I'm pretty sure you already have wizard and rogue inside there.
Yes. But there's a white general in Zendikar Rising, Kazri, which forces you to play with the party mechanic, which is okay. But the payoff sometimes the payoff for party is kind of high, or just going for the. But if you have like multiple party mechanic triggers in a full party, then you would be greatly ahead against any opponent.
Yeah. The best deck I saw recently that was done by the streamers, right, was a Winota party deck.
Oh.
You will see that later on. With the Nahiri, Winota, the Warriors.
Oh,
basically.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Then the triggers that would the creatures that would trigger Winota are like Goblin Rogues, Goblin Warriors.
Yeah. Yes.
Ooh la 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 la, and that's very
And
spicy.
there's a lot of Boros scholars I saw that have the equipment mechanic. So with Embercleave inside it, and the Nahiri Planeswalker, which you will look at later, it will be very spicy.
Very spicy. So enough of this party mechanic talk. So Nimble Trapfinder, is this a yay, a nay, or a meh?
It's a nay across constructed and limited.
But it's if this is the card alone, if just Nimble Trapfinder alone, this is a solid nay. This is a solid nay. As in the Horn of this day nay.
Yeah.
But in limited, if you could build around it, it has the draw card ability. It's the Ophidian ability. It's very good. And drawing cards is very good.
Yes.
So enough with the party, because every time we talk about the party, it gets intense. Let's put in another party member. And this party member is this one. I like this also.
This one is okay. This one is okay.
This one is okay. This is Thieving Skydiver. Thieving Skydiver feature Merfolk Rogue with 1 colorless and 1 blue for 2/1, and it has Kicker X, and X can't be 0. It has flying.
Okay.
It has flying, and it says when Thieving Skydiver enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, gain control target artifact with converted mana cost X or less. If that artifact is an equipment, attach it to Skydiver. Oh, wowza. Wowza. What do you think, Benson?
Too bad X cannot be 0. This would have been super playable in the Eternal mechanics.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Get the Moxes and get the Get the Black
You settle
Lotus.
with Soul Ring. You settle with Soul Ring
Yeah.
instead. But the thief
Still.
the thief ability, the gain control ability is very very good, right? I think this will probably see more play in the eternal formats rather than standard, because I'm not sure what artifacts you can actually steal with this specific card.
If you
Right?
have
You
if you have like a bajillion mana, you can steal the Great
the Great
Henge,
Henge,
Ember
the Great
Cleave.
Henge,
Ember
Evercleave, yeah, all those. But I think I'm just looking at all the the standard playable artifacts, because Graph Digger's Cage is going away too, so you also cannot steal that anymore. So you try to steal the artifacts that they play in the sideboard, right? Tormod, Script, Lantern, the Soul Guide Lantern. Those are, you can sacrifice them. I mean, it can steal the Witch's Oven, but no one plays it anymore in standard
no.
because the Cauldron Familiar is banned. So this one is definitely usable in eternal formats.
Yes.
Playable in eternal formats. Yeah.
Just stealing a Soul Ring or a artifact. It's so nasty. Gaining control of permanence is very nasty since long-live Agent of Treachery days. So, Thieving Skydiver in standard, yes, I agree. It's very meh because you need like 8 mana in total just to get the opponent's Embercleave, just for the Embercleave player to untap and just cast another Embercleave in his attack step.
Yeah. Although it attaches it to the Merfolk though.
Yeah.
Right away if you get Embercleave.
But I
thing.
think in Legacy against like the Stoneforge decks, this is a very good sideboard card because it's blue. It feeds also feeds the Force of Wills Legacy.
Oh yes.
Steel equipment, but with Dark Faden and Legacy is a very dangerous beast for me. But I think like that. So equipment like Stoneforge decks, mirrors, you have this one. They get their Sword of Feast and Famine, Sword of Fire and Ice. Then you just steal the artifact, attach it to Thieving Skydiver. Next turn you swing, gain damage. But in standard,
I was just scanning the artifacts in standard. Well, one of the things that you can easily steal is the Clover. So maybe in the mirror you can do this, but it's not searchable with the Fae of Wishes. Other artifacts you can steal is like Maze Mind Tome.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That's about it. That's about it. Yeah, not much in standard. So, well, yeah, too bad. It's spicy in definitely all other formats, eternal formats.
And you can also steal Solemn Simulacrum. For 6 mana, you have a 2/1 flying that can steal Solemn Simulacrum.
You see, it cannot even steal the Stone Coil Serpent. Because X cannot be zero.
Oh man, tama. Oh man. Oh, wait lang. Oh man, that sucks. Anyway, so with that being our last rare for blue, Benson, what do you think of Thieving Skydiver?
For Skydiver, it's a nay for limited and standard. Definitely, I think it's still May in the May region for the eternal formats.
Okay, with that out of the way, we have concluded our review for the rares and the mythics for Zendikar Rising Blue. But before we end our podcast, Benson, what is your one common or uncommon card that you're very excited to see in any format? What card it is? Is it?
There's actually a couple to see in uncommon and common in blue. So in uncommon, you have the sensor duplicate, Jawari Disruption. So it's a counter target spell unless its controller pays 1 or it becomes a land. Right?
Yes.
You can. It's a modal card. It's a modal card. So this one is another card, but I would play this more as a spell, right? I will not count this as a land. I will count this as a spell. And if you eventually need to play it as a land, then you go ahead and play it as a land. So it's basically like the cycling version of Sensor, right? A weaker version of it. It's a similar
weaker.
concept.
But it's still a land. You
Yeah.
can still use it. But
Yeah.
the good thing about this card being modal is like you could play mind games with your opponent by playing turn one Jawari Ruins.
Yeah.
So that's the modal part of Jawari Disruption. Then on your second turn, you just put an untapped land, and the opponent will be thinking so many things like, does he have the extra disruption in his hand, or what? It creates mind games of just being the land early on.
Yeah.
In the late game, the counter spell might go, it does weaken, especially with ramp decks or control decks that goes the distance. But this
I have
one,
a question.
yeah.
Because I haven't read the rules yet. Can you play the land with Uro? Because it's not a land card in your hand.
Oh, I have to ask our judges with that. We will confirm
I
that.
don't think so. I don't think so. You can play it with Uro.
No,
If you could, right?
no, you cannot play. You cannot play it because
Cannot play, right?
yeah, because
it's not a land card.
It is a instant in your hand, not a land
Yeah,
in your hand.
Yeah.
It's the moment that you choose it. Yeah. It's just like on the graveyard. Just like in the graveyard, it's instant in the graveyard. You can Thoughtseize it. You can Thoughtseize this card because it is a instant in your. So, any other commons and commons?
Yeah. Two other uncommons to watch out for is the Merfolk Wind Robber. So it's another mill enabler. It flies 1/1. When it deals combat, you mill a card.
Yeah.
And you can sacrifice it to draw a card later on when it cannot attack anymore, and only if the opponent has 8 or more cards. So this will definitely be one of the 1-drops in the mill in the blue-black roam decks.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah. And the last one is the last one for uncommon for me in blue is Ruin Crab. So if everyone has played with Hedron Crab before, this is similar to Hedron Crab, but it can only hit your opponent.
The Hedron Crab is back. Krabby Patty is back. Yes, it's
Krabby Patty is back.
Yeah, so all the Dredge players is feeling really bad because they were hoping they have another copy of Hedron Crab so that, they could mill their deck easily with Dredge. But, having a landfall mechanic on mill with just putting land drops and you're milling the opponent is good value. And you will see this in my UB mill deck in the future in my Zendikar Rising.
This is probably the replacement of the Drown Secrets.
Yes. Oh, yes. Because it just sits there. You just put lands. If they have 1/1 or 2/2, it can block all day. For me, my go-to uncommon is very, very it amazes me to no end because this mechanic has been printed in rare slots most of the time. Very uncommon to be seen as a uncommon. But this is Lull Mage Domination. Lull Mage Domination is a sorcery for X and triple blue. This spell costs 3 less to cast if it targets a creature whose controller has 8 or more cards in their graveyard and gain control of target creature with converted mana cost X. So in mill decks, this is an auto include because you could gain control of pesky attackers or it's a control magic. It's a control magic in uncommon. And even though it has 3 blue, in the late game, if you have enough mana, you could get the biggest threat or the smallest threat early on. And if it drags on, the opponent's graveyard would be 8 or more. So you could, for 3 mana, you could get their 3 mana cost creature. It's really good. For me, this is the best. For me. Mage
Actually, I was looking at this. For the first time. I thought it was because I was like looking for replacements in my in the Timor the wish board of the Timor Clover,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Because the mass manipulation is gone.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
was looking for a replacement for mass manipulation, and I thought if this had a planeswalker included in the game control,
Yes.
that would have been much better. Um, yeah, that's my only like, because just getting a creature is like, yeah, you can get a creature here and there, but getting a planeswalker is where the game is.
But with the exit of War of the Sparks, we can definitely feel the absence of planeswalkers in decks. I think, I hope, because
Yeah,
there's no
the,
more
the
planeswalkers that
I would
much.
actually feel more the absence of the Shacklands than
Yeah,
than the
that's the one that you would really
uh,
feel. Uh
yeah.
and also a quick shout out to one common. It's Into the Royal. Into the Royal is
Oh
a
yes.
reprint. It's very good, and I'm very happy that it's also in standard, because in control decks, in Ugin decks, because in Ugin they want their spells to go to the graveyard so that they could fuel Uro. I'm sorry. So having a time walk, you could have you could bounce a permanent, draw a card, then it feeds Uro in the late game. So Into the Royal
Yeah.
is another shout out for me. So any other
So
cards for you,
for the
Benson?
common, yeah, for the common slot outside, Into the Royal, you took it also from me. My other shout outs will be Anti-Cognition. That's like another replacement for Quench, but it only hits creatures or planeswalkers.
Yeah, that's really
Um,
good.
you have Deliberate, which will replace Radical Idea in some of the red blue spell decks.
Yeah.
And then last one would be we have Negate for another year or 2 years because they reprinted it here. Yeah,
So many
that's it.
negates.
Yeah,
But
that's it for me.
that's it
Blue
for
one.
you. And that's all. That's all on Blue in Zendikar Rising. And once again, thank you very much to my very, very special guest, Benson. Benson,
No
before
problem.
we end this podcast, quick questions about the tournament. Uh, Moving forward with Zendikar Rising, quick shout outs to Alfred. Thank you. And would also personally thank you for handling tournament, because especially during these trying times of the pandemic and all, having our local community have a tournament just to get together and play some Magic, it really helps.
Mm.
Personally, I thank you for that, and Sean, Fred, and Art, and to all the other contributing to tournament. So, any final words, Benson, before we end this podcast?
Yeah, I mean for the tournament going forward, right, I think it will not be as consistent anymore. Because what we've seen after Davao has started opening up, right? A lot of the competition or the participants are people from outside Davao already, right? It's actually growing. If you look at the demographic, it become more outside of Davao now
International.
because because life has come back, right? Life
Yeah.
has come back. So it's mostly like me, Chrysler, Brian,
Yeah.
Ian, and the kids there in Manila. So what we're seeing is that it may be something that we can do on and off. Definitely, we can probably do a tournament like when you have like a Zendikar Open, right? Like once the field is set, we have a larger Zendikar Open, which will maybe span 2 weeks. Because life is also coming back for the folks. It was really a good way for us to go over the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Which a lot of fun, work from home, things like that. But
Yes.
what I see it going forward will be mostly like a one-off or a two-off tourney. Yeah,
Yeah, maybe a once a month big tourney,
yeah,
or so it's kind of looking great. But some people are still very afraid to go out them. And having this as part of everyday life would be very nice. And once again, we thank you. And any final shout outs before we mga plug-ins natin dyan?
plugins. No plugins. Kasi
No
this is my first time joining, and I
Yes,
would like to
yes.
maybe make this a more constant thing. And
Oh,
if you have
yes.
any need of a guest speaker for any of the other
Oh,
podcasts that
yes.
you will do or YouTube,
Definitely. I am very, very pleased to hear that. Thank you very much. And with that,
thank
this ends our Zendikar review, set review for Blue. And and from here in the great white void behind me with my guest Benson, this is Nax saying thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Okay.